Good evening and welcome to FTB Sports on Sunday, the 16th of October. And as I put on the caption, thank God those darn international breaks are over. I don't know if anybody like me I just cringe for 2 weeks. I just desperately want the Premier League to come back. And then I say a little prayer to the gods of injuries that, you know, a Man City player doesn't get completely cropped in the internationals. And unfortunately, they didn't answer because Ferran Torres is now out for 6 weeks. But it's better than the summer when Foden and Kevin De Bruyne both had metatarsals as a result of the Euros. We'll come on to United in a bit, but they must be cursing that injury to Varane on the international duty. But let's go. And if the Premier League wasn't exciting enough to bring you back, I just want to remind you, now, we've all got to be very careful about copyrights and things on videos. So I decided to take the volume off this next video, so we're not in any breach. However, Ollie, and good evening. If I say the video clip I'm going to show you, if it had the words on started, it's all over at Sunderland. And it ends with, I swear you'll never see anything like this again. Come on. And we just got ourselves round the copyrights. So
that's it.
How you doing, old boy? You okay?
I'm very good, very good. Still waiting for the big game of the weekend, but obviously did my research on all the other games. So, you know, thank you for having me on again, Ian.
We will come to that last. Let's have a look at the first game we've got. Whoa, what can we say? Watford 0, Liverpool 5. It was the early kickoff, 12:30. There was a part of me that thought that Liverpool would have a really tough time there. I thought Watford would be up for it with their new manager, but it wasn't the case. Did you see it? Did you read about it? Did you see it on Match of the Day, Ollie? What do you think?
I had it on Sky Sports, and obviously I watched it on Match of the Day. I watched a little bit coming in and out on the old TV. It was my wife's birthday, so I was making cocktails the whole day. So I had to kind of juggle making cocktails with still watching football, which was a toughie. But I mean, you know, did anyone really think Watford were going to get anything from this game? Liverpool, I thought they were at their attacking best. I mean, I don't think I've seen them play this well and this such good attacking football since when they actually won the league. It didn't even seem like they needed to defend because it's just the flow and the play was just it was so good to watch. Mane's back on fire. You know, you just can't stop him. Firmino just did what he needed to do. Just simple tap-ins, put it in the back of the net. You know, all the players around him. He got in the area and he just popped it away, and a great hat trick. I mean, Watford obviously set up not to concede. Maybe they need a bit more time, but they just got ripped to shreds. They really did. They haven't conceded that many goals this season, and then Ranieri comes in and they do.
Not since the FA Cup final against City.
Exactly. So, you know, it's fair enough saying Watford have these values and they say they're going to, you know, that's the way they work on things.
You used to fire at least a manager a season or more. You know, the cynics would say they deserve all they get. Hope they go down for the way they treat managers. But
well, some would say I think they've looked better. I mean, they were playing Liverpool, so let's not give them too much stick. But some would say
ago when James Milner looked like he was 135 years old rather than 35 years old or whatever, he struggled against Foden, etc. But Milner, I mean, he looked like he was 24 years old going down the flanks with Robertson on the other side. Is that a sign of how poor Watford were for James Milner to look like a 24-year-old? Possibly. I do say, and if Gemma's watching, Mohamed Salah, and you'll have to make him a non-alcoholic cocktail, I can't challenge that he's not the best player in the world. I can't challenge that. And I even joked and said, bloody Stevie Wonder must have been judging, player of the month last month in September or whatever it was, for Ronaldo to win over a Salah. I mean, I don't know what's going on or what money changed hands, but that the guy's feet are incredible. His balance is just dramatic. I can't even think of a player he reminds me of. He's almost Maradona-esque at times.
I know his movement is, when he goes down the line, and you think to yourself, you look at the defender, the Watford defender. I can't remember who it was, but you think he turns back and
I think it was my mum actually. It looked like it from what he did to her.
But he turns back and he goes the other way, and you're thinking to yourself, well, surely you should see that. But that's just the brilliance of Salah. He is by far the greatest player in the world at the moment. No one touches him. Like, the man's just unbelievable. And don't get me wrong, I know it's Watford, but he did the same thing against City last week, a few weeks ago. So, he's phenomenal. But it's the same with Milner. I mean, he might have had a bad game against City, but today
he was against Watford.
He was on form. And
the other player to stick out was Firmino. I know they've missed him and he's been out of the team for a long time, but as I suppose, at least you've got a few, out and out number 9 forwards at Arsenal. But City don't have that. And when I watched Firmino's movement, when I watched how quick he was into that, and okay, they were technically poachers' goals, but you've got to get there to put them in. And I was applauding from the sidelines, not just Salah's brilliance, Mane's brilliance, the flowing football down the flanks, but Firmino's work off the ball, his, Mr. Sunshine smile. He was just, doing what a number 9 should be doing.
I thought Liverpool just looked just at their best, just back to when they won that league title. I think the year after they won the title, they kind of changed their tactics a bit, and I don't think it worked for them. Whereas now I feel like they're back to the tactics they had when they won the title. Full on press. Not such a high line. I think that's what they did the season after they won the title. They just pushed that line up a bit too far, and then they kept getting caught out. Whereas now, it seems like there's a nice balance there. And I'm Liverpool for the title. I think they, as long as they keep their players fit.
They were brilliant. My only question, though, is it was only a couple of weeks when Man City were the better team at Anfield with a very similar Liverpool team. I wonder whether Liverpool were absolutely as phenomenal as we think, or Watford are just a bit shit. And Norwich really look like a team going down already. And Watford, I reckon, are going to do their best to join them. And the regularity they change managers, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. It could well be that they are really poor.
Well, look, for me, you say that City had the better of them. Maybe they did, but they didn't lose. And I think league titles are always won and lost on. You take a draw where you can get it. You just don't lose. If you can beat the good, if you can get a draw against the good teams and beat the poorer teams, then I saw Man United did that many seasons.
Chelsea did. We'll come to that later. But if you want to look at a very professional, if you look at the most wonderful football team of the weekend, it had to be Liverpool. But if you wanted to look at the most disciplined team of the weekend, getting a away win at Brentford or 1-0 for Chelsea, and we'll come to United in a minute, but Chelsea had a load of defenders out like Rudiger and Silva, but they still looked so organised, so structured in defence with their 2 main players in central defence that have been out. So you could also say that Chelsea were playing like champions as well as Liverpool for different reasons.
Yeah, what it comes down to for me is, I've always heard this thing say, like, you want to win the league, you want to see them playing expansive football, I couldn't care less, right, if Arsenal won every game 1-0 and drew 10 games and played absolutely terrible. I wouldn't care. Just to win the Premiership. That, for me, George Graham stuff, you know what I mean? Like that's the way I look at it. And I remember United won it one year and they were really bad and they won it. And I remember I used to two of my best mates, United season ticket holders, and they were like, "Yeah, but it's not the same. It's not the same." And I bet if you ask,
Brian Clough was great. I was reading an article in the press by John Robertson, probably before you were born, Ollie. But John Robertson was this flying Scottish winger for Forest, one of the best I've ever seen. And he was reciting stories of Brian Clough, and Brian Clough was saying in the league championship, there's a win is a win, and even when you win ugly. And he said on the coach, just as they were getting out on the board, coach at Anfield, they got a draw at Anfield, and Cloughie says to the driver, "Get out of the car park fast before they change their mind and realise they've been robbed."
That's brilliant. This thing is like, it's changed since those days. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it was like when Chelsea won the Champions League the first time. Like, it wasn't attractive at all, but who cares?
It wasn't very attractive when they won it the second time either.
But who cares? Like, if Arsenal won the Champions League, honestly, other than my wedding, I don't know what would be better. Like, seriously, it probably would be better than my wedding. Don't tell my wife. She's all right. She's asleep at the moment, so we're okay.
Right, we've got to move on. We've got to move on. So, the next game, but boy, all the fireworks came early for this one. Leicester 4, United 2.
Man United agenda. Are you watching?
There's some before I hand it over to you, Ollie, I just want to again think back to that international break. You had Varane, who started well for United, a defender, world-class defender, getting injured. And as a result, Maguire had to come back after only 2 days training. Contrast that to Jamie Vardy, who's had his feet up for 2 weeks, fresh as a daisy, looking like he's 20 again. What does the international break do to teams? Because I'll hand it over to you, but I thought United were pretty ropey.
Well, obviously, I pay more attention to Man United now because of the Man United agenda, which is how I find myself with FTV Sports. But
good show.
Yeah, great. It's great, and it's also great to see the meltdown. I love a bit of a meltdown because it's usually Arsenal. I mean, at the first 3 games of the season, it was it was the total opposite.
For 3 games, you were United.
You know what I mean? It's crazy how it's changed, and now United are in meltdown. Leicester just were at it from the word go, and I think maybe what you said with Maguire,
as well, really fresh.
Yeah, maybe that extra time, maybe it helps them out, but it was just great pressing from Leicester, and it just seemed like United just didn't have the flair to get around that press, whether they were tired or whether it's tactics from the manager. They just didn't have that cutting edge. It's interesting to watch the game, how the game actually flowed. You got a great goal from Greenwood, which was just like world class. So it was
both goals were crackers for United.
Yeah, and then Leicester.
Imagine they hadn't gone in. Imagine those 2 worldies hadn't happened.
That's it. But then you look at
the 4, 5, 6.
You look at the Leicester goal and you just think, it's funny. I've seen Arsenal do that hundreds of times. Just put the ball into touch, just get it up there. Even De Gea probably had the option to get it long and just get it out, and you mess around with it, and it was a poor goal. What a finish, though. I mean, did he mean to do that? Do you think he meant to do that, Ian?
I love Greenwood. I think he's a fantastic player. And again, I was reading the press this morning about there was criticism of Gareth Southgate really playing a bit too negative football when he's probably got at his disposal the most talented bunch of young players that people can ever remember. And Greenwood.
But I mean the Tielemans one though. Yeah. Did you think the Tielemans one?
No, no, I didn't.
Do you think that was a bit accidental?
Yeah. I tell you, I have an interesting view on this game. And I know I shouldn't feel sorry for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but I kind of do. Because you've got a no man's land there. If I happen to be or wake up in a bad dream and I was manager of Manchester United, I've got a 36-year-old player. He's coming back from 2 very tough Portugal games where I think one he scored a hat-trick. Yeah. He's 36 years old. And I'm really thinking in terms of squad rotation, I could do with bringing him on second half, but actually putting the fresher players on for that game. Yeah. Now that's what I'm thinking I've got to do. But then this voice from the side comes, and it's Ronaldo going, if you dare do that, I'm going to screw you over like I did last time and throw a strop and make you look like, a kid. And then you've got the ghost of Christmas past, Alex Ferguson, on the side going, and I'm going to stitch you up behind the scenes as well. Yeah, to whoever will listen. What, as a manager, where do you go from that? Because the logic says a 36-year-old after 2 rigorous games, probably, just like City took the choice with Walker, didn't start for City, rested him, had Aki on the left with Cancelo on the right, and Diaz rested for Stones and Laporte. I'm just think that's interesting where he's not even in charge of selection there. And I watched that game and it was like Ronaldo wasn't even in it.
So you think that he's not in charge of selection, Ollie?
I think he ultimately he probably is, but I think he's a bit spineless, and I think he gets bullied by Ronaldo to now pick him every week because Ronaldo can play the crowd and put it on Ollie's back. And you've got Mr. Ghost of Christmas Past there. I mean, how would you like Ferguson? You're the manager, and you've got Ferguson there watching every game. He's got the ear of all the main supporters. He's got the ear of the board. It's not a good position to be in, I mean, how would Jurgen Klopp feel if Kenny Dalglish was saying to someone at the game, well, I'd have played my best players. I wouldn't have played him.
I mean,
Liverpool would never let that situation happen.
I just think, and from what I've been seeing on WhatsApp groups and stuff like that, I don't think Ronaldo was a good signing. And I'm pretty sure I was on Man United Agenda and I said this. There was a program that we did, and I said, you know what, this could be a curse more than it is a blessing, because it's down. I think if you had a Thomas Tuchel in there in that situation, I think he would probably manage it pretty well, because the man is he's just an unbelievable player manager, you know what I mean? But Ollie, on the other hand, I don't think he has that experience, and I think it's kind of gone the other way. And when you look at Man United's fixtures coming up, bloody hell, like
blood on the rooftop.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Arteta's going to be the first manager out." Obviously, he hasn't been, but I mean, from where I'm looking at it now, and I'm not saying he is going to be, but you would say with the run up of fixtures, if it doesn't go well within the next 4 fixtures, then it could be close. It could be close.
Oh yeah, I can see the comments banking up, and probably we've just generated a load of them from what we've just said. Let's have a look. Let's have a look what's coming through. Okay, so good old Amondi. Good evening, Amondi. How are you doing, sir?
Amondi.
Gemma is watching. Evening, boys. I was quite confident Ranieri couldn't master such magic on that
shirt time
from the aging square. Anyway, Gemma, your team was absolutely fantastic. Salah is the best player in the world. You've heard from me. Firmino had a great game. Milner looked like he was 20. But just at the back of your mind, were Liverpool that good, or were Watford that bad? Just a thought.
They did win 5-0 though, Ian.
Yeah, I know. But you're right. They were good. I'm probably talking crap. The evening squire. Liverpool, Amondi. Liverpool is such a well-oiled machine, evidenced by this result. Well, there you go. Gemma says, first team to score at least 3 goals in 7 consecutive away games. I didn't know that. Did you know that, Ollie?
I didn't know that. That's a good little stat. Also, there
was a statistic about Man United's away games that changed.
That's it. I totally forgot. I only realised earlier on when I was doing my notes is that Man United's away run has come to an end. So things have changed.
So Gemma's now trying to tell us it's Saladinho, yeah, and he's on those scales. Yeah, he's an extremely good player. His balance is amazing. His feet are magical. His sense for goal are awesome. His work rate is pretty good as well. Yeah, hats off. Right, can we finish this bit? Yeah. Shah from United says Watford tactics made Liverpool look better. Well, there you go. Maybe I'm not so mental after all. Ronaldinho has levels of a footballer above Salah. Don't tell John,
I don't know. I don't know. Ronaldinho was good, but Salah's is pushing for that right now. I think.
We'll move on from this. We don't want to bum fight. And whatever, don't mess with Gemma. You don't want to do that. We are watching Ollie. Yeah, Armandi, Errol, and the guys. Again, as a fan, you've got to think, gosh, what a position to be in. You've got a club legend in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who is dying, 1,000 stab wounds out there. With Mr. Ghost of Christmas Past and Mr. Too Big for His Boots. Ronaldo putting the knives in Etu Brutai, yeah, and all that. So I don't know. Being a fan cannot be easy. It just can't. I was watching Newcastle a little bit earlier, and Steve Bruce is, it's his team. He loves Newcastle. He's a Geordie, and again, he's in front of his the ground that he loves, the fans that he loves. He's dying 1,000 deaths out there. And my mate, who's a Newcastle fan, was just saying they've got to put him out of his misery. It's like an old horse. You got to take him down the vet. And Solskjaer, I think, is the same bit. You don't want to see a club legend suffer anymore. I think you've got to put him out of his misery. Armandi disagrees with me. That's fine.
Put him down.
I don't think it's down to the international breaks. More so the deficiency of Ollie and him whinging it through without any. Yes, he is. But all I'd say, Armandi, is if you replace Armandi and a new manager comes in, they've got to deal with Ronaldo. And they've got to deal with, Ghost of Christmas Past behind the scenes. They've got to be a big enough guy to deal with those two. They're two big deals, aren't they?
We should rename the show "Ghost of Christmas Past."
Yeah, it is. I can't think of another phrase.
It's been the phrase of the show so far. It's been brilliant.
So, I wonder how Tuchel would do at Old Trafford.
I think Conte. I was on a pod.
Jeez, he was a fight with Ronaldo.
I think Conte. If Conte came in, then people would be worried.
Fists will be flying. Between him and Ronaldo. Injury or not, no excuse. It was just that Brendan outplayed Ollie. There you go. Lukaku, no goals in 6 games. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I watched a bit of match of the day with my mum, and my mum often gives some very interesting comments on that. And she likes Lukaku. She thinks he's a really big and powerful player. But even my mum said, do you think he's a bit too big to actually get off the deck sometimes, up for a header? And it was just an interesting thought.
Lukaku has really upset me, actually, because he comes in against Arsenal, and if you listen to the commentary on the Arsenal game, it was like, Lukaku doing what he does the best, getting in there, bullying the Arsenal defenders, and you watch him now and you're like, well, what happened, mate? Because when you played Arsenal, you were in another level, and now you're absolute crap. It's just like,
my mum was asking that. She makes various comments. There's just various players she loves. She loves Phil Foden, and she loves Saka at Arsenal. Your man, she loves him. She thinks he's like the best player, my mum says. And she used to like Lukaku. She used to think he was really, really good as well. But she said, am I watching like the same player? But okay, that's what an 86-year-old has an observation. On Monday, yes, it's okay to.
I like the sound of your mum. She sounds like a bit of a legend.
Yeah. Bobby's positioning was excellent. Right, moving on. Let's get on to.
Oh, hang on a sec, though. We didn't finish on Man United.
Oh, go on.
The one thing I would like to say is that when you concede from a kickoff, that is so Arsenal. That is just such an Arsenal thing to do. And when I saw Man United do it, I was like, wow, it was. Guess we'll take that. You never concede from kickoff, so not good.
Not good. Right, move on. City Burnley. My brother was at the game, giving me various phone calls and comments, and I'm out to see City playing Palace at the end of the month, and I'm going to Palace playing Newcastle next weekend. But this was an interesting one. Unfortunately, the game I chose to go and see earlier in the season was when Man City drew 0-0 at home to Southampton, and my brother was going, and there was times that Burnley felt like Southampton against City. City made quite hard work of that. Did you see it at all, Oliver?
Well, I saw the highlights. Obviously, it wasn't 5-0. It wasn't 5-0. So
Nope.
I guess for Burnley, that's a positive to take. No Grealish. Really messed up my fantasy there. Why was he not playing? Such a shame.
Well, because he played twice for England, and that's what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should have looked at with Ronaldo, and he's a damn sight younger than Ronaldo.
I
Same
guess
with
that's
Wolf. He wanted
I
to
guess
rest with him.
that's what I admire about City is their strength and depth. And I think Bernardo Silva, there's this. I mean, what the hell? This guy is just on a mission to.
But there's an
He
interesting
just.
point to make there. Pep Guardiola says nobody has a right to play in the team. I will pick my best 11. So, Mahrez hasn't seen Mary get many games this season. Sterling has probably taken it the wrong way. And last season, when Silva was hardly getting a game, and all through the summer he was murmuring about leaving. Well, look what that psychology of the management has done to Bernardo Silva. And I think Sterling will come good again. But that's because Pep pushes him to play the best of his game. It's all well and good playing Andorra, but with all due respect in the world, Burnley ain't Andorra, and you've got to be the best of the best. And I think Pep has the right attitude with his play, and you can see the Chelsea manager doing the same. But where does that put Solskjaer? When either he's not allowed or he's too afraid to pick the right team for that game.
I mean, I think you're being a bit harsh. I mean, comparing Ollie to Pep, I mean, arguably the greatest manager.
He's got a bigger job.
Other than Ferguson, I mean,
It's a bit smaller club, but
no, but I mean, Ferguson's the best manager ever to grace the game of football. No doubt about that. I don't think anyone can deny that. But Pep is close second for me. But yeah, I just think his management is with Bernardo Silva is just insane. Like there was talk of him going, and there was talk of Arsenal wanting him. And he was like, "No, I don't want to go to Arsenal because you're rubbish." And it's like, "All right, fair enough, no worries, bro." But he's just he's just been so good since the start of the season. He can just it's like the football glues to his foot, and he can go and glide around players, and even that goal he scored in that game was just a simple tap in. But he's an amazing player, and he's just stepped it up, like you say. Maybe Sterling needs to take a leaf out of his book. Burnley had some good chances, but they just couldn't. And maybe if they had scored one or two of them, it might have been a bit more of an interesting game. But it's just routine for Man City, really, isn't it? I mean, bad defending from Burnley for the second goal, and it wasn't 5, but I think it was a very comfortable 2-0. And Pep was happy. He said after the international break, it's a hard one to come back from, but for a team they usually beat 5-0.
Walker, Grealish, Diaz, and the other thing I'd add is it's really interesting because I go watch Crystal Palace, and the lads that I stand with at Crystal Palace, because they all stand and shout. There's no seat. There are seats, but no one uses them at Palace. And I've always been critical of Wheater, the goalkeeper there, particularly and what I call the widow twankies at centre back. They always had these two really immobile centre backs, and I've always been critical at Palace because the pace of the game, like Liverpool, starts from the goalkeeper releasing it really quickly. And that's what drives me crazy about Pickford and England. I'm a real critic of Pickford. He looks like a show pony between the sticks, like a bit like De Gea, and sorry, Lloris as well. It's all well and good being a saver, a show pony between the sticks, but you've got him in the modern day football. If you're world class, like an Alisson or an Edison, you've got to get the ball out really fast to set the game flowing. Liverpool don't flow by accident. It comes from Alisson quickly distributing the ball in the same way that Edison does. Now, Edison was unavailable for the game because of flying back from Brazil or whatever. And when I was watching City and listening to my brother, the flow wasn't there as much. And I am certain that's because Sefrin isn't as good as distributing from the back. And, it's interesting. I think sometimes we get tied up with associating a goalkeeper who's fantastic between the sticks, but that's decreasingly part of the job. They're almost the first line of attack now, not the first line defense. I just think that's an interesting byproduct.
I think I 100% agree. I think, and City were the ones that kind of started that trend. It was, you need to be able to pass out, you need to be good with your feet, and you need to execute passes that, in some instances, that a player on pitch would feel uncomfortable playing. And if you can't play those passes, then you're not going to make it as the Man City goalkeeper. But yeah, the modern day goalkeeper has to have that.
Yeah,
that in his locker.
Yeah, they have to be almost Beckenbauer-esque in the way they used to play. So you won't remember.
But it was a routine.
See, I've got to ask you about this shirt. Yeah, what era of shirt do you think this is, Man City shirt?
Well, I'm a big Oasis fan, and I think Oasis are the best band that I've ever lived in my entire life. And I'm thinking that was the Oasis 1995, maybe.
Ooh, earlier.
Jesus. What was it, 92?
Earlier.
Even more.
89, 90.
89. I'll be honest, Ian. If it's not Arsenal, I don't really know.
Graced by like the Brightwell brothers and Paul Lake and famous players like that. Back in the day. But
when you were really bad.
Yeah. Were you born then?
I was born in 1983, so yeah, I was born.
You were about as old as I was when City first won the league, and I couldn't remember it or whatever. But
I mean, what would you say? What was it? 89? Was it?
89, 90, yeah.
Yeah, well, Arsenal won the league at Liverpool that season, so I remember that. Very young. I remember
Arsenal won the league. Yeah, Arsenal won the league. Man City won what's the equivalent of the Championship. Well, they came second, and they got promoted that season back into the league. So they're actually while Arsenal were winning the league and having all that great time, City were one division below. Interesting. Hey, here's one. As an Oasis fan, one of the best quotes ever from Noel Gallagher, and I love listening to Noel. And he does a really good podcast with Rob Brydon recently, if you get a chance to listen to it. But one of the things, and he said, if both of your parents were born in Manchester, then therefore you are genetically perfect. My dad was born in Stretford. My mum was born in Charlton. Genetically perfect, me, according to Noel Gallagher. Anyway, moving on.
Well, look, Ian, if Noel says it, then for me it's gospel, because to me Noel Gallagher is God. So genetically perfect. I knew I liked you. I knew I liked you, Ian, and now I've heard that. I know why.
Villa 2, Wolves 3. Can you just kick off a moment before I hand it back to you, Ollie? I want to rabbit on about these bloody international breaks as well. Okay. Villa had Douglas Luiz literally getting off a plane that morning to go and play in midfield for them. Buendia, it was his first Premier League game, I think, for Villa this season. So their two main central midfield players, one of them had just got off a plane, and the other, it was the first time in the Premier League. I just maybe thought that had an impact in the game. Did you see it? Did you watch it? Bloody hell, drama or what? This is what the Premier League's all about. Europe was watching, there'd be this is the game.
I hate to sound bitter, but I was getting a bit annoyed with the whole Aston Villa loving, everyone was like, oh, Villa this and Villa that and Villa this. And then when I saw the full-time score, I was like, yeah, have that, Villa. All right, you're not as good as what everyone says. I mean, regardless of all the mitigating circumstances, I've just started to get a bit sick and tired of the Aston Villa loving. Paul Merson was saying, oh, well, if you take a point off Villa, it's a great result. And it was just like, yeah, well, they just got done by 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. So enjoy that. And that made me very happy. Game of the weekend, though, wasn't it, Ian? Really?
Yeah, I wanted to mention a couple of players in there. John McGinn. I love watching him. I mean, he scored. Yeah, it was a deflection, but I mean, he is a blood and guts Scotsman. I love watching him. You look at a club like United, of someone like on Fred's wages or Fred versus McGinn, and it's awesome. And
you love comparing it back to Man United. I love it.
The other player I wanted to mention was Adam Traore for Wolves. He looked as though he'd spent his whole international break in the gym pumping iron and beating his personal best in the bench press. He had about 4 or 5 phenomenal runs the length of the pitch. He was pushing. He was like an American footballer. He took everybody out of the game, and then he just got in front of the goal, and he could either cross it or shoot, and he cacked his pants and did neither.
Isn't that the thing with Traore though? Is he's got the pace, he's got the kind of skills, but when it gets in front of, when it gets to that last, when you've got to make that clinical finish, he just doesn't meet that.
But do you not think? Let's say he had a decent coach on finishing. Let's say he went to Liverpool, or he went to Chelsea or City, or even to Arsenal. Would get, Arteta's a coach. No, but seriously, and someone like Aubameyang took him under his wing. If he could be taught a bit of finishing, might he not be amazing?
I don't think it's to do with that, Ian. Though I think it's to do with his attributes. He's really fast and he's strong, so he uses them to his ability, and he uses it to his advantage, which gets him into those positions. But he's not an actual finisher, and that's just something you can't, unless you're Thierry Henry, who came in and he wasn't an out and out finisher, but he just kind of was that good that he could learn it. Like there's certain players that can pick that up, and I think Traore's really great at getting in those positions, but when it comes down to it, I mean, he can't hit a barn door, really. No, but it didn't matter, though, did it? They still won, so.
Can't hit a cow's arse with a banjo, I think that's the expression. The other one is a nice 1980s one, where you wouldn't, again, but it's a music one, and they used to call it head down, no nonsense, mindless boogie. And he's a bit like that, he gets his head down, and he's brilliant. But I was watching Alan St. Maximin for Newcastle this afternoon, and he is built a bit like Troy. He doesn't quite pump as much iron, but he's better because he's got the finishing, he's got the turn, he's got the twinkle toes in the penalty area. I think that lad's he could go the distance. St. Maximin with Newcastle. I rate him. I think he's a
good player.
But interesting. Cool. Should we move on?
I mean, there's a few things about the Villa Wolves game that really pleased me. Just for the simple fact, I think. It's just what the Premier League's all about, isn't it? I mean, like, 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. It just shows that in this league, you can never stop. You can never stop. I feel like if Villa had really gone for it from, I know they had a few players come off, then they would have just won it out of sight. But it was a real, just beautiful game. Beautiful game. And that's what the Premier League's all about. And, I was quite happy because I feel like everyone loves Villa right now. It's all about Aston Villa. They're such a great team. They're so well run, and obviously they tried to poach Emile Smith Rowe off us as well. So
I remember that. That was a bit cheeky.
Yeah, that was. But it was the game of the weekend. It was great, and happy to see.
Let's take a few more comments, and then we'll go into a few more games. Okay. Where are we at? Oh, I don't know where we are with the comments. Oops. Yeah, let's go here. Dyche tactics are outdated now. I think he's Jose without the money, and that style of play won't work in the Premier League anymore. Maybe, but Roy Hodgson did okay with it. Maybe there's no place for Roy anymore. Pep is a big fan, a big love him with Sean Dyche. He feels under the money, he's got a well-marshalled team.
He would be because he scores 5 goals against them usually every match. So.
But he sees him staying in the Premier League. I'm not sure, Jeremy. You've got to hand it. Sean Dyche has probably had the least money in the last, I don't know how many years Burnley have been in the Premier League.
I'm sorry, Ian. I hate Dyche. Let him go down. See you later, mate. Goodbye.
With the amount of money available, I'm sorry, I respect Dyche. But anyway.
They beat Arsenal, so.
Yes, Ollie live forever. Yeah, blah. Yeah, we got that.
Mad for it.
Amondi is with you. Such a great comeback by Wolves in the derby. Good to see Wolves striker Silva. Yes, starting to step up. He's a gem. Yes, that is true. And Neves. And as Gemma rightly says, Neves free kick. What a power blaster.
Very lucky. Very lucky. I mean, I think all Wolves goals were so lucky, but who cares?
Yeah, no. If you're in the Midlands, that was the game of the day for you. Story's life should do track and field, not football. It'd be funny. It'd be damn funny though if Liverpool spent 50 million on him.
I think James has hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. Great to see the passion of the Wolves players and meant so much to them and could be the catalyst and stepping up. I agree. Wolves, there's no chance they're going to go down. I think they'll definitely finish midway in the table. And for a team that's not totally established in the Premier League, I think that's good. With a new manager, having lost one really good player, Jota, and having also Neto injured for the whole season, and he was a young god on that flank. I loved him. So they're doing okay. They're doing okay. So let's drop in to the next game. Let's look at Norwich Brighton. Did you see any of this?
I did, and you know what? Loads of goals in this one. but I actually thought Norwich should have won this. I think they had the chances, and this is what this league comes down to. It just comes down to you can put away your chances. Norwich might have got a valuable 3 points there, but it was nice to see Brighton not win again, because it was a bit like Aston Villa. Everyone's like, "Oh, Brighton, then they knew this, then they knew that." They're not really.
Graham Potter, great manager. Graham Potter's an awesome manager. Newcastle could do if they've got to put Bruce out of his misery. They've just got to shoot the old horse. I think they could do so much worse than Graham Potter. I like him.
I think he's overrated. I think he's overrated. The greatest thing about Graham Potter is his beard, and James will agree with me on that. That's all. He looks like a sailor, and that's really cool. But I don't think Brian.
He looks like an East London hipster, actually, with that beard.
Yeah, that's probably why I don't like him.
What else to put out there? Trossard, gotta love Trossard. When I watched him, I think he's a gifted player. Maupay is having one of his best seasons.
I hate Maupay, and it was really nice not to see him getting that pen, just because it was like, screw you.
It wasn't a penalty either. It wasn't a penalty.
I don't know, actually. I kind of thought it was. I thought it was.
It was a dive. And Pukki, record scorer now for Finland, etc. But he tried so hard. But I want to make one mention is, if the player Sargent's mother's watching, buy him some new boots for Christmas, for God's sake, because he could have won the game. He had those 2 1-on-1s, Sargent. On that one way, he had a tap in. And didn't he? Who
was the one with the open goal for Norwich?
Sargent. Yeah. He had the 1-on-1. His mum needs to buy him some new boots for Christmas, poor lad.
But, he was unlucky. I think Norwich should have won that, but 0-0.
Okay. Southampton 1, Leeds 0. Remember Sheffield United doing so well in their first season, and then Leeds and all the pundits for Leeds. Should we be worried, Ollie? They did. They had a lot of players out. Phillips was out knackered. Rafinha was out, and so was Bamford. But should we be worried for Leeds?
Well, no, not really. I mean, because there was a Leeds loving last season for the. Look. Everyone's having players out, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Ian. It's like, after one season, your tactics are laid out bare. People have watched hours and hours of footage of exactly how you play. That's the way the game goes. Everyone knows exactly how everyone plays, and they set up a game plan to play against that game plan. And unfortunately for Leeds, people have worked that out. And I don't think this wasn't a very good game, really. It wasn't a lot of chances. I thought Dan James looked pretty good, but
yeah, he did. He had a lot of space.
But it was just it was a scrappy 1-0 win from Southampton, really, and it was against. I mean, it was all Southampton first half. Leeds came back into it the second half, and then Southampton got a goal against the run of play, and then it was just backs to the door stuff. But I wouldn't say it was a vintage display by either team, really. And I don't think Leeds are looking very good at the moment. But I still think Leeds will stay up.
Does that mean Brentford will struggle next season when people suss them out?
Well, you on current form, you would say so. But, I mean, that's not to say that how many games have Brentford played this season that people couldn't have worked them out. But then Brentford do have shades of Sheffield United in their first season, so it's very hard to say. It's very hard to say. But what do you think? Do you think Brentford will be all right next season?
What's the gag they say about Brentford? You're just a bus stop in Hounslow, bus stop in Hounslow, bus stop in Hounslow. I think they're a very well set up club. Great new stadium. Greg Dyke is their chairman. They're a really well structured club. Yes, I think they will suffer a second season, because I'm saying all the things I said about Leeds or Sheffield United.
Even
Yeah.
Bournemouth were the same, weren't they? Eddie Howe and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they will. Moving on to the last game of the day, the evening game, Brentford-Chelsea. Brentford 0, Chelsea 1. The only thing I want to say is, every time when I watch Match of the Day, I watch all these clubs. I go, it's like I'm frothing like a Pavlov dog when I see a decent left back, because I can't remember the time Man City had a decent left back. I can't remember. It was forever ago. And I saw Chilwell playing great for England, scoring again for Chelsea. He looked fantastic. But I like the lad Cornet at Burnley. I think they picked up a good player there. And, so what do you think?
First of all, Ian, I love the reference of Pavlov's dog. It's bringing me back to my sports science days at Preston University. Great
like
little
Pavlov dog.
Yeah. I think that's probably the only thing I remember from my sports science degree. Thank you for reminding me. I dig that. Talking on that Chalobah, where did he come from? And he looks really good, doesn't he? Is he a right back or is he left back or Chalobah? I'm not sure. I think he must be right back.
But also I mentioned, that Chelsea academy is something else, because probably the best player on the Park Southampton Leeds was the lad Breuer.
Yeah, he was decent.
Player. Yeah, and that's before you get started on Billy Boots or whatever at Norwich, Billy Gilmore
and Gallagher at Palace.
Palace. I mean,
yeah, they've got some great
players. Go on, keep going. Chelsea.
Brentford Chelsea. I actually had this on while I was making cocktails for my wife, as it was her birthday, as you do, like shaking the cocktail shaker and going, "Go on, Brentford! Go on, Brentford!" It never happened. Back to the Wolves display from Chelsea. I mean, Brentford went for it. It's just gutting because we actually got turned over by Brentford. Mendy, I mean, he had the game of his life. You shall not pass. He was like,
your mother likes him as well. She thinks he's great.
Yeah, he was like Gandalf. You shall not pass. 26 saves in the game. 26 saves. I mean, that's just.
Tuchel had a great quote after the game. He said, "For 70 minutes we were brilliant, and for 20 we were really lucky."
But 26 saves, I mean, that's just insanely good. Brentford just
they were without their two main centre backs, Rudiger and Silva. Incredible.
And Brentford just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Big 3 points for Chelsea. Probably a 2 points drop for Brentford, because in those last 20 minutes they were just all over. And Brentford hit the woodwork twice. Chelsea only had 5 shots. I believe Brentford had 14. It was just insane. Great finish from Chilwell, though. Great left-sided centre-back. And like I said before, what's happened to Lukaku? It's like he comes in, he bullies everyone, and now he looks like he's gone back.
Can't get off the deck.
Yeah, it's almost like they've kind of changed.
The Italian, I reckon, here's my theory. In Italy, obviously, he had a certain diet and he was looking lean and mean and fast. And he's kept that Italian diet for the first few games. But now he's back in London and, the fast food's everywhere. And, you don't think he's looking a bit heavier, a bit slower?
No, I'm telling you what it is. And it was his manager in Italy before. Was it Conte?
Conte, yeah.
Conte
on the training pitch.
Actually said before he sold him, he said, "I've got him back to where he is. Do not break him." And I think Chelsea have broken him, because what they've done is he's gone from playing that specific type of play, and now they're trying to make him play a different way.
Yeah. They're trying to make him a target man rather than on the shoulder of the last defender.
They're also trying to make him a team player. He's not a team player. Just
was it Arsenal?
Get the ball to him.
It was Arsenal in that game where he outmuscled one of the Arsenal centre backs and dropped him to the floor and pushed it, because he was on the shoulder of the last defender. He pushed him aside and he went forward and scored.
This is what's pissing me off.
Making him a
Like
target.
the one game that they didn't spoil him was against us, and he had the game of his life.
They haven't had time
But
to
now
work on it.
they've spoiled him, and now he can't score at all. But
Yeah, there's the return game.
yeah.
Let's see if you're true. I tell you what, if he scores a hat trick in the return game, you're going to eat those headphones.
I'll be on here. I'll be on here. Don't worry. I'll be on here crying my eyes out.
Well, yeah, Chelsea that was a very professional performance from a very professional manager.
And like we said before, at the start of the show, who cares if you win 1-0 every game? It doesn't matter because Liverpool can beat Brentford at home.
So I'm going to get some comments in here. Gemma, she's with the Potter fisherman was at sea versus Norwich.
Fisherman's friend.
Rumours are Liverpool have our eye on Rafinha. I reckon it's going to be Traore. But yeah, he's a good player. He's a good
He's
player.
not as good as your front three, though, so I don't see him even getting in the team.
He'd play further back, though, wouldn't he, than the front three? He's not a front three player, isn't he? A wing back.
I don't know. He's pretty attacking, isn't he? I don't know.
He's a good player. You're right. And they'll have a bloody Brazilian love in there, won't they, with him? Yeah. Gemma likes the Brentford manager, Thomas Frank. Yeah, he's got nice hair. But they'll have to look out for some... What? They'll have to look out for swooping bidders for some of their players in the transfer market. Yes, that's true. Ivan Toney, he's a good attacker. I'd take him at City, please. Yes, Mr. Guardiola or Sheikh Mansour. Can you get that checkbook out? We'll have Toney at City at number 9.
They're probably relatively cheap.
You can't get Ollie Watkins. I like him as well. Mendy saved Chelsea. Yep, Gemma and my mother. Yeah, they're applauding Mendy and they're
game of his life. Game of his life.
Yeah. Right, let's move into Sunday. The first game of the day, which was Everton West Ham. I couldn't call this. I really couldn't call it. And maybe it was decided again on the injury factor. Rondon's looking a bit of a cart horse up front for Everton, while both, I think Richarlison's still out and definitely Calvert-Lewin is out. And they're looking a bit blunt. But what do you think?
Well, everyone beforehand saying, well, Everton have had all of these injuries and they're still doing so well. So maybe this is one of the times that at home they kind of slipped up. Unfortunately, I didn't watch that game, but I obviously I saw the result and. I'm not really surprised. I think West Ham are just as good as Everton, and maybe, like you say, with all those players out.
Yeah, probably just decided on the fact that Everton were a bit blunt up front. I mean, they don't really have a striker properly at the moment. It'll take Rondon a while to readjust to the Premier League.
But was Rondon ever really that good?
No, you're right. You're right. He was never really that good.
He wasn't really. Was he?
He was at Newcastle with Benitez, wasn't he? Was it Newcastle? Yeah, he wasn't that great.
Did you watch the game, Ian? Was it a good game?
I didn't. I was listening to it on the radio as I drove to my mates to watch the Newcastle fan to watch the Newcastle game. I wanted to take in all the atmosphere of the Newcastle game, which we'll come on to in a mo. I listened on the radio, which actually the first time I've listened on the radio to a game in ages.
Do you remember those days, Ian? Though
Yeah.
I know you always say, that you probably weren't born then, but I remember listening to 90% of the games on the radio, and it was always an interesting kind of experience. Obviously, now I've got a season ticket, so I go every game, so it's totally different. But listening on the radio really is an experience because you really are dialing into what the commentators feeling at that time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could just be like, oh yes, Arsenal scored. And you were like,
the emotion. Yeah, the great radio guys, your John Motsons and people of the era, the Barry Davises were just awesome on the radio. But I've just digressed from a mo and I'll get back on track. If I have to say a sport that is magical on the radio, it's still cricket. When you listen to an England tour in the Caribbean and they're describing the wooden stands and the band and what's cooking on the barbecue.
Yeah, but Ian, most of the cricket's on the TV now. Most of it's on the TV.
Listen in the early hours of the morning to some Caribbean tour by the England team. That was just poetry in motion.
I have to admit, Ian, I've never listened to cricket on the radio. So
Test match special.
Yeah, I've always been the luxury of having Sky Sports for that. But
Henry Blofeld and the boys, it's great. But anyway, moving on. There's some magical voices in some of those players. I mean, when you come to David Lloyd Bumble, I mean, what a voice! I mean, he's got. No wonder the Cadbury's pick him to be the voice on their Cadbury's caramel. He's got that wonderful Lancastrian accent. It's just
he's a legend. He's a legend.
He's like a rich man's Michael Parkinson to an extent. Anyway, who started on the radio? Interesting. Michael Parkinson was one of the very original voices of what's now 5 Live, but it was Radio 2, I think it was in those days. And Michael Parkinson used to do the sports shows like in the afternoon, but that was probably before my time even. But let's come on to the most. If we've had the most drama, the silky football at Liverpool, the drama at Villa, the big build-up game of the weekend, the one I wanted to watch all the build-up for was Newcastle. Obviously, we've got a change in ownership, and I have a view on that. I think you've got lots of hypocrites out there going, how dare football approve these Saudi owners in Newcastle? Well, hello, the government's been selling them billions of pounds of weapons for about the last 20 years. So what's the difference? They're just buying a football club and all this outcry, but it's okay for the government to provide, British Aerospace and Rolls-Royce to sell them aircraft, bombs, bloody mines and crap knows what. But it's not okay for them to have a good time at the footy. Bit weird.
No, that is never a truer word said, Ian. Never a truer word said. And this whole thing is kind of been blown out of proportion, but no one ever forgets that we've been dealing with the Saudis for years. Absolutely millions and billions of pounds.
The Crown Prince is welcome at Buckingham Palace, but he's not welcome at St James's Park.
No, it's definitely an interesting one.
But it's interesting. Graham Souness wrote a really good article in the Sunday Times this morning talking about, and he was actually quite critical because the human rights abuse are incredible. And it was quite interestingly, right late on in the game, John Joe Shelby got sent off, and it flicked across to the new owner and Amanda Shaverley, and they were looking at each other and writing notes, and I thought, yep, that's John Joe Shelby been invited to the embassy for a good an afternoon chat.
Did you see on Sky Sports? They had the guy on there. And I was like, this guy is like, he's probably from where I'm from. He must be from Surrey. He's got the nicest accent. He's so prim and proper. He's got a tan. I'm like, this guy don't live in Saudi Arabia. Like, brilliant.
Anyway, it's not going to happen overnight. Obviously, all those Georgians, you saw them all with their tea towels on their head and they're doing the Arab gear and all this sort of stuff. And they were there. They were thinking this is the renaissance of Newcastle, and they probably one day will be right. They're a tough and demanding lot, and Bruce has to be put out of his misery, but he was never going to end that well today. Just things like this, it doesn't quite happen overnight. And I thought Tottenham were bloody good in stages, actually, and Newcastle were god awful in other stages as well. But what did you think? Did you watch it? What do you think?
I saw the highlights. I'd say it was my wife's birthday yesterday, but it's grown into a birthday weekend, which means I don't get to watch any football whatsoever. So I get to catch the highlights, and I was a bit annoyed because I thought maybe Newcastle might be able to sneak a draw, but from Kane's goal drought's over.
Yeah,
Son was on a lot of form.
Well, I thought the player of the game, and a really interesting one, I thought was Regular. Again, it's back to being salivating like a Pavlov dog about left backs in the league. Well, I was salivating about him, and thinking, God. And the interesting bit was he was in the Spain squad but didn't play. So actually, he was fresh as Vardy. He was
very good.
He was nicely. He would have been training in Spain, relaxing, but not having to play their games.
He
And
was very good.
He was great, and so was Lucas Moura. I thought those two were really good. Son and Kane were they were their normal fine. And I have to say, Eric Dyer, what a plonker! That own goal, what a plonker! That's the
He
sort of
can
goal,
always take a shine off something.
you know, when you're in your school team and the ball hits a bobble and you do something really shit like that.
I've done things like that before, to be
Yeah.
fair, Ian, and
Yeah.
I know how it feels. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Other than this whole Saudi takeover stuff, no one really would have cared about the game. Everyone would have thought, yeah, Spurs will probably win the game. I still don't think Spurs are very good. But I'm still kind of on the fence right now because Arsenal play tomorrow night, so I can't really say much until Arsenal get the 3 points. But
Which we're going to come on to, and you can have a whole soliloquy about your thoughts on what's going to happen tomorrow night. But just finishing off that one, they have to put Bruce out of his misery, but beware, because Newcastle, I think, are in the bottom three. If Newcastle go down, then suddenly the Saudis are bought a right crock. They cannot afford to go down. So there is a big, what they've got to do in between now and the end of the season. They've got to decide who's the manager to get them out of the shit. They've got to, if they can spend, I think it's been muted about 50 million in January. They've got to be clever with their money. They've got to have wise Premier League players, not youngsters or non-experienced in the Premier League. So you've got to find a manager and the players who priority number one, you've got to stay in the Premier League. So they have a challenge on their hands. And I was looking around and I was thinking, and back to Potter, if not Steve Bruce, and you want a manager who's going to keep you in the Premier League, and their number two, I think, was part of the England setup as well. He's done quite well. And you're going to have a wise manager. Again, you could have a punt on, I can't remember the German manager who used to be at Dortmund, I think that they're associated with, etc. But it's a hell of a gamble to appoint a Premier League novice, even a Conte, in a situation like this. What do you think?
I think Conte would be the man for the job, but who knows? You're right. It's what everyone's saying is it's the manager that takes over from the next manager who set them up for that. So yeah, I don't. You know what? I've got too much worries focusing on Arsenal to really care about or worry about Newcastle. So I hope they get it wrong and maybe put some few years back.
I've got to hope. I really hope I get the pronunciation of this name right. Ola Kunle, who's got a point here. Ola Kunle,
007 as well.
Yeah,
007. So he's actually a Bond. He's a Bond character.
He's a licensed to thrill out there. They should give Bruce till the end of the season. Then they can bring in a manager who can attract players to help them break into the top. I think logically you're right, but he looks so stressed, so broken today. I don't know if health-wise he'll make it to the end of the season. I agree with your theory, sir. I do agree with your theory, but when I saw Bruce today, I don't know if he's going to make it. He just looks so stressed out of his box. But it's a very sensible decision. Or you bring in a caretaker like Roy, just to get them to the end of the season, just to get the discipline in there, get some solid players into your team. Gemma's going to say Frank Lampard here, but I think that would be such a high risk strategy. That would be or Gerrard. I mean, it could really end up so badly. And if I was Frank, it's too high risk a strategy. That he's proven nothing, Frank Lampard. You're going to need a street fighter, like a fresh Steve Bruce. If Steve Bruce was fresh, I'd agree he could take them to the end of the season. And obviously they won't have Allardyce back there, but they need a manager to get them to the end of the season. Frank Lampard, no way. That's not the answer. No one comes to mind. Hey, I pronounced it right. Thank you. Ola Kunle 007. We like it.
His name is Bond.
His name is Bond.
I look in.
Olakunle Bond. But yeah, the theory of Bruce taking them at the end of the season, keeping them there, having a nice little Brucey bonus. Aha! He could have a Brucey bonus for keeping him up. So that's an old joke that you probably won't get. It's years before you.
No, I got that. I'm not that old. I'm not that young, mate. I think you're doing me
the theory's right, but I just don't think he can make it to the end of the season. Talk of Jose to Newcastle. Yeah. Well, look what he did with the money at Chelsea. He did pretty good with that, but I'm not sure he's yesterday's man. I'm not sure that there was a time and a place for Jose Mourinho, and maybe the only place for him now is Italy in that style of football. I'm just not certain. I tell you what, Ollie, would you swap living in Rome for going to live in Newcastle?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, he looks the same as he has done. Managing Newcastle under Ashley wouldn't have been easy. It would have been the job from. I mean, his stress levels. God, I hope he has regular medical checkups, because obviously what we haven't discussed there was the game was paused because there was medical assistance needed to a fan. Hopefully he survived and everything good, which is football showing its more caring side. I was quite proud of the
big
game.
Up. Yeah, big up to the stewards and the players and everyone.
Regular on that side drew attention. So
really good, really good.
Conscious. And it was lovely hearing David Ginola, who by sheer chance, how could they've done that? Ginola said, look, this is the first game I've come back to comment on in like years. And this game, and a fan has a heart attack like he did. And he talks about through CPR, which is quite interesting when Jamie Redknapp saying he's learned some stuff today. But
it was good. It was really good.
It was a joke. Gemma agrees Frank would take them to League One. Yeah, it's a joke. Brucey Bones, yep, he's got it. Play your cards right. that was it. Or was it the generation game? No, I think it was play your cards right. So, no, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a Brucey bonus this season if he stays on to the end. I don't know. But it'll be interesting. It makes for theatre. Anyway, you're not going to get off this that lightly, Ollie. I'm handing the ball straight to you. So, Arsenal at home to a free-flowing, very different Crystal Palace. The return of the prodigal son, Patrick Vieira.
It's going to be an interesting one because I know what we're like as Arsenal fans, and I know before the game we're all going to be singing Vieira, oh, and it's going to be a lovely atmosphere. But then as soon as the first ball gets kicked, it's like, we need to win this. Like, this is a very important game because 0-0 with Brighton won't look like a good result if we lose to Palace or draw to Palace at home. So we need to win. I think we will win. The problem is we're looking okay defensively, but we're really struggling attacking-wise to get the goals and maybe the chances that we need. But I do think we will win. And I do think we'll give Vieira a good reception. For me, it's more down to how Palace play. I mean, Ian, how do you think Palace are going to approach the game?
I think it's going to be a lovely game. I think it's going to be a really. We talked about Villa and Wolves, and you were saying how proud you were of the Premier League and how wonderful the Premier League is in drama. I am so excited about tomorrow. What is it? Like a dog with two dicks. About right.
Like Pavlov's dog with two dicks.
Pavlov's dog. I'm salivating like Pavlov's dog with two
dicks.
For tomorrow night, I think they're two really free-flowing teams. I think it's going to be an absolute humdinger. I think it's going to be end to end. You know, the sort of game that Gallagher will run and run and.
Do you think that Palace will go for it, Ian, or do you think they'll sit back and play it defensive?
No, I think they'll go for it. I think it'll be a humdinger. I think maybe Arsenal may. I think there'll be a big score. Maybe Arsenal might just have a little bit too much for them, but I'm not sure. It could end up like 3-3 or 4-4 or something ridiculous.
No.
Honestly, it could. I think it could be a monster. It could. You're going to need some, a fefew beers. You're going to need to have a lie down. Get some
Ian, don't worry. The beers will be flowing.
Yeah. Ooh,
that's why I don't do fan cams, because it just wouldn't be coherent. It really wouldn't. It wouldn't be worth it.
and quietly whisper what you think the score will be. Come on, you got to say.
What, me?
Mm.
I think we'll win 3-1.
Ooh. I think it's going to be a high-scoring draw. 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, something like that.
007 thinks it's going to be a draw as well.
Yeah, 007 does. And Gemma, the last word on the comments. It would hurt me to get beat by a team Gerard managed. So it will be painful for you, Ollie, if you take a beating. Yeah. Okay.
I guess we'll wait. 1-1. 007. 1-1.
007 says 1-1. I think it's going to be bigger than that. Right. So, what an exciting weekend. Any last thoughts on the weekend before your Fiesta de la Resistance of a game tomorrow night?
Well, for me, the weekend's not really over yet. I couldn't really care less about any of the results that we've talked about, except for the result tomorrow. So maybe check in with me tomorrow night and see how I'm doing. But it's been a great show. Thank you for having me on. And it just goes to show how great the Premier League is, and it's gonna go to the wire, this one.
Cool. Well, this has been FTB Sport. If you've liked the show, if you've laughed occasionally, share, tell your friends, etc., etc. And if you want a little secret, if Palace win, I'm going to gate crash the Gunners show on the reaction. You don't know it, but I'm going to do it. So yeah, have a wonderful week, and let's get really excited for tomorrow night. Cheers.
Namaste. Bye.
Hey, Pavlov.